Coming up next is Kristin Fontana's Guiding Stars, Evolutionary Astrology, here on HealthyLife.net radio. Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Greetings. You're listening to Guiding Stars, Evolutionary Astrology Radio. This is Kristin Fontana, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Rose Marcus from Vancouver, Canada. Welcome back, Rose.
Thank you, Kristin.
We are here to discuss the transits for the end of June and pulling into July, the sign of Cancer now. We just had the solstice a few days back, and starting of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere and starting winter in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is a seasonal change, but there's a lot of energy also loaded, as always, that we're going to talk about and prepare you for the coming weeks. But before we do that, Rose, is there anything you wanted to announce?
Oh, no, I'm carrying on with continuing to see clients and carry on as usual throughout the summer months.
Right. Slow it down and do some of that. Yeah, well, Saturn's retrograde in Aquarius, so, with that, we can change the way we're spending our time or just make those adjustments to free us up a little bit more, and it's a good time to do that. All right.
I cannot believe that we've hit the solstice already for those of us in the northern hemisphere. We've just hit the longest day of the year, and it's downhill slide from here. And we haven't, where I'm sitting, we haven't had spring yet, and all of a sudden it's summer.
Well, I was just writing about this because we've had such bizarre weather in Oregon, but just a few days ago it was in the 60s, low 60s. I was literally grabbing a sweatshirt to go outside, and we've had a lot of rain, which off and on, which has been incredible because we've had so much heat, and then the fire scares always loom in the August-September timeframe. But all of a sudden, I'm looking at the forecast, and it's supposed to be 101 on Sunday. So you go from 60 to 100, and what? Today, yesterday was 90. So that I'd like to have, I'm a Cali girl. I lived in California for 40 years of my life, and it was 75 and sunny all the time. It's like, what is going on here? I do appreciate the seasons, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, and it really has been playing havoc with the growing season as well, too.
Oh, so, definitely. The plants are just completely confused.
Yeah, and the crops, playing havoc with our food supplies and so forth, too, so... Yeah, welcome to the new reality, I guess, eh?
It is definitely a trip.
Yeah,
a trip. All right, so we had the solstice, the June solstice on Tuesday, and today, as we speak, Venus just entered the sign of Gemini. Right, so it's joined Mercury. Mercury's finally out of its shadow from the retrograde, and it's moving right along, picking up plenty of speed. So keeping us all busy and in multiple directions at once, potentially. And did you feel that shift? I really did feel that Venus shift.
Oh, geez. I don't think I've felt it yet, but I'll look forward to it because I could use some perk me up.
We were talking about the Mars transit you had yet to feel. Has that kicked in yet for the Aries of our?
Yeah, no, I'm not at full speed yet. No, I'm doing it in increments, but I don't have that usual, full tank of gas to work with.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
All right. So where would you like to begin?
Well, we're coming up to the end of June, and good. We'll enjoy that Venus in Gemini. Of course, that's a short transit, so middle of July it'll move into Cancer. But before we get there, so Venus in Gemini is, and the season has changed, and we're into summer, and so. It is a good time to get out and get around town, right? Get out and see some friends and take in the local activity and mix it up a little bit more, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Variety is going to be something you want to feed, or you feel that you want to feed, and just having those options and just allowing yourself to flit and flee, I like to say, for that Gemini vibe, but just feeding off of a lighter kind of energy than maybe you've had. I mean, we just came through some big eclipses and retrograde, one of them being a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio that is far from light. And so when things shift into Gemini, and it just, I don't know, nice to pick up a good book that doesn't require a lot of energy or focus, or hang out in your garden and, pick up some beautiful things. That things like we're being around others that you haven't seen for a while.
Yeah. Pick up the phone and call someone.
You can pick up the phone if you can't travel there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect Gemini.
Well, Venus and Gemini go by feel, and Gemini is about being present in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, absolutely. And as we come up to the end of June, on the 28th of June, Neptune stations retrograde. So outer planet retrogrades can be subtle. Neptune's a subtle planet anyway, but it will turn retrograde on the 28th of June, and it will stay retrograde. What did I have written down there? Till
25 degrees, I think it is.
25 degrees, and that's a point to make with that. Sorry, I'm just looking
25 degrees of Pisces, I should say.
Yeah, 25 degrees of Pisces, and it will be retrograde, through the beginning of December, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the point with that 25 degrees, I've been watching that all year, and it has been because it's a slow-moving planet, and it's been slowing down to station retrograde. It's been at 25 degrees since the second portion of May, all the way through June, and it's going to stay at 25 degrees until about the first week or so of August at that 25 degrees. So that's a long time for it to be there. But the reason I'm looking at that particular degree is because we're going to experience Mars retrograde later on in the year. It'll be end of October through the middle of January, and Mars will enter into the sign of Gemini at the end of August, and it's going to retrograde at 25 degrees Gemini. So the Neptune transit at this point can be picking up something, right? So I think that we have a lot of uncertainty out there in the world. You may be going through a lot of uncertainty with what next for me, how to play it next, what's the world doing, and, how that's affecting me, the domino effect of everything. And so we have this Neptune transit happening right now, too. So I think that we can't really know with great certainty what's coming for us next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we have to make the most of the opportunities of the moment. When we get into fear about the unknown category, it crams the opportunity to to feel your way along fresh potentials.
Yeah, well, obviously, fear, I always say, will create a kink in the hose when you're trying to get water out of it.
I love
that. That is like my biggest pet peeve ever. If someone said, Kristin, what's one of your top pet peeves, it is that when I'm trying to water the garden. And you're on your way, and then you got to walk all the way back to. I know it sounds silly, but it's an enjoyable experience, and it's always a reminder that. It's a wonderful reminder. Where are you within yourself? right? Where are you within yourself when these, even when the pet peeves, like a kink in the garden hose happens? But if you think about it, a negative thought or an undermining thought in any way, it will slow or even stop a process. I mean, you want to keep everything open.
That's excellent. I love the way you describe that. And any retrograde aspect is an individualising aspect. You know, I always say to lift and separate, right? You know, so retrograde's going to pull you back, and it is about sorting it out internally. But Neptune is a collective archetype, right? It's what I call attunement. So Neptune and Pisces archetype is an attunement, and you pick up the collective buzz, whatever it is. You know, you're receiving information. It's like the radio signals that are coming in at you. And when Neptune goes retrograde, then it is about you sorting out your own internal signals rather than being bombarded with what's on the outside. So it's useful in that regard of getting clearer. Retrograde aspect is going to be more specific. It's going to start to focus in on something again with Neptune. Neptune and the Pisces archetype stirs potentials that are ready to surface, right? You know, so and with Neptune and Pisces, it comes through many different ways. You know, it comes through the dream cycles. It comes through, kind of floating, and it kind of bobs up to the surface gently rather than, hit you in any other way. So you have to create space for that higher listening to take place, or that awareness or vision to come into focus. It's like having the lens just being out of focus and needing to gently turn it until it clears for you.
Yeah, it is like tuning into a higher signal, and when you're really wanting to listen to something, even deep within your subconscious. I mean, it requires becoming very quiet.
Yeah.
And it requires eliminating the static in your life. We talk about this radio signal. You can't hear your song, your favorite music playing when there's a lot of static. It creates a reaction to the music and to anything that's obstructing what it is that you're trying to hear. And so the retrograde is asking you to clear the static or remove the distractions, and to get out of your mind and to tune into that higher frequency or that higher signal, the higher message, or the message that can lead you forward. And so, especially these outer planets, and we've talked about this, I mean, there's great benefit in the slowdown. And I love what you said about, I think you said the transit is picking up something. It's like going back to collect something, the pearl, finding the pearl that you've just passed, potentially, on the path.
But if you're
that's important.
Yeah, but if you're listening to the noise, you're not going to find it or hear it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we. I think that I always say we don't know how to co-create with the universe because we're always too busy. We're always in action, and sometimes you have to pause and be in stillness and be in quiet, to stop for a moment. Take a breath so that you can actually integrate better, that you can pull in all of that energy, so that you can actually attune in a different way. And
I want to give a good example of this because I was just talking about California, being a Cali girl. So I was born in Los Angeles. I lived in Southern California until I was 40, and we've been living up in Oregon for 16 years. And one of the things that I'll never forget, because it's you have to get used to a certain way of life with all the traffic, all the people. You visited me there, Rose, in Hermosa.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And it's a busy place, Southern Cal, and I even went to college at UCLA. So busy, lots of people all the time, and you just are used to it. It becomes your norm, right? And so, I mean, even our engineer, the hub of this radio station, is near where I used to live there in Southern California, so they're all used to that. But when I moved to Ashland up in Oregon, and it's a small town, I couldn't believe how quiet everything was, and the energies went vroom. And something that would have taken me about 3 hours in LA took me 20 minutes. I had to go to the DMV, I had to get a smog check, everything. I was back in 20 minutes. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. So it's that kind of thing energetically where you are, if you're living in a big city, it's not like you can turn off, what's happening there.
Yeah.
But you can not say yes to every invitation that's coming your way or feel like you have to do this or that. It's about learning to say no sometimes and saying yes to yourself, saying yes to the quiet, saying yes to me, saying yes to you. And that's what it's going to require, even this summer. One other thing, too, before I forget, on that day, on the 28th, or at least the day before, Mars in Aries will be sextiling Saturn retrograde. And so this feels like securing this change, really knowing what you want, not what you need. With Venus is what we need, but Mars is really what do I want? Like, what is it going to take to accomplish that? What kind of changes have to happen for me to experience or actualize what I want? So there is a securing a change, securing a new groove at that time. And then, as you know, Mars will pull into a square to Pluto, and that's a propelling energy. So I'd like your thoughts on that.
Let me also remind listeners as well, too, that the 28th, when Neptune stations retrograde, is a new moon. And it's a new moon in Cancer, and it is squaring Jupiter as well, too. And so a new cycle starting with a new moon in Cancer, and that's all about self-care and self-preservation and what do I need, right? Just as you were saying, with that Mars sextile the Saturn here. So, so a time for a personal regroup for sure with that transit, right?
Yeah, it's like there's so much happening all at once. You've got Neptune stationing retrograde, Mars sextiling Saturn, Neptune. Did I say Neptune stationing retrograde? A new moon, and then we have Mars with it pulling into a square to Pluto. So one of the ways, I always look at, what energies are offsetting the other. We can have a predominance of stress with some support, and we can have predominance of support with some stress. It almost feels, like a 50-50 in my opinion. I think it depends on what it is that you're energizing and the choices that you're making. And then, we want to have some pressure and some stress. That's how we're productive. It's like if you say, I want to start a new daily ritual of meditating every day, really quieting the mind. You have to make the choice to go and sit, even if it's before bed, no matter how tired you are. It's requiring a certain sort of discipline. So that's you physically making that move, not getting off the couch and going and physically going there, right? And so these transits, if we're not following a path that supports us with Mars pulling into Pluto, it will push us there. It will throw us into that turn. So we want to be partnering with that energy.
Absolutely. And so that Mars square Pluto takes place on the 1st of July. And, this is, that's a big transit. It's something that evolutionary astrologers look at, right? So, again, personal will and the big picture soul will, right? So that 90-degree angle, that first quarter square, Mars is on a cycle with Pluto, and on a trajectory with Pluto. And a program was started at the beginning of March. Do you remember in the beginning of March we had this lineup of Venus, Mars, and Pluto together?
Yeah, Capricorn.
Yeah, and Capricorn. And so what happened at that time was that three different cycles started. Mars and Pluto is a 2-year cycle. Venus and Mars is a 2-year cycle, and Venus and Pluto is a 1-year cycle, right? So this Mars, Pluto, whatever it was that started there at the beginning of March, we've had to this point, July 1st, of the experiential track of bringing that information in. And a first quarter cycle here is the next the next stage of the developmental curve here in terms of the existing reality. And when we get to that 90-degree angle, it is a cutoff point or a turning point in terms of taking a look at, again, what your grand essentials are, what the priorities are, what the reality is, what you're leaving behind, and what you are, what kind of foundation are you laying, to create a more solid foundation to proceed with, right?
Right.
So, this is about choice makings. And at this point, there can be some things that are falling by the wayside, whether it's your choice to finish that off and move in a different direction, or whether to carry that forward. At this point, it's a qualifier, right? Don't want to bring the excess baggage forward that is going to weigh you down, right?
Right. Mm. So we call this an evolutionary gate, right? These prominent pairings, especially of Pluto-Mars, because as you said, Mars is the ego and Pluto is the soul. And so Mars takes what's unconscious inside of you, and you can feel through your instinct what needs to be next. I mean, you don't ever argue with your instinct when it's telling you something. If it says, hey, I want that, you're not going to try and talk yourself out of it unless it's terrible for you, right? And so these are significant turns, T-U-R-N-S, turns, and it's always, always on some level about eliminating something that doesn't serve you anymore. Kind of desire that you've exhausted. Just this morning, another student had asked me about Mars returns. That's when Mars reaches the same point in the sky as it was when you were born. And that's a 2-year cycle as well. And every couple of years, we are re-looking at what we want, right? And we're saying, does this still support where I want to go? Or maybe, the Aries energy is all about exploring things and seeing how they feel and how they land in your life, essentially, having the freedom to experience it. Once you experience it, is this the end? Am I done with this? Have I exhausted this desire? Is a new wave now separating from the sea, needing to be born? And so we are constantly, if we're not reinventing ourselves, we're reflecting about what are these choices that I'm making, and are they moving me forward? So you will be changing your mind, you may be changing your choices, and you may be looking very seriously about what is coming next and how to empower yourself at this stage of the game.
Excellent, yes. And I heard the break, so maybe we'll carry on a little bit more after?
Yeah. We'll say more about that.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Find out about Kristin Fontana and get your free weekly astrological forecast on her website, KristinFontana.com. Read articles written by the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green. Evolutionary astrology is a spiritual perspective astrology from Pluto's point of view, and what a view it is. You can even order a detailed, personalized chart that tells you about your past, present, and future. You'll also discover where and when Kristin's upcoming conferences, workshops, and appearances will be on KristinFontana.com. That's Kristin, Fontana.com.
Okay, you're stressed. You need a little R&R. Wouldn't going to a spa help? There's all kinds of spas, too. Destination spas, medical spas, day spas, even dental and mobile spas. Where do you find the right spa at the right price? Oh, no, more stress? Well, not anymore. Visit spafinders.com. At spafinders.com, you'll find everything you need to know about spas from around the world. So de-stress. Click on spafinders.com right on our homepage. Ah, I'm feeling relaxed already.
What would happen if you didn't follow the established path? Would you feel scared or proud? Could you explain that helping the people of Peru improve their own community would also have an effect on your own? Would you rather make your own way or spend a lifetime saying, what if? Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps. To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or go to peacecorps.gov.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
All right. night, just before the break, we were talking about just this significant pairing of Mars and Pluto. It's always important wherever those two are transiting in your chart or even in the sky. It's all about evolving in this journey. That's why we're here. And so Mars is speaking directly to that for you personally, and we'll be witnessing more about that in the world. Were you going to comment?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Pluto's always about what's compelling, right? So,
right.
So you may be, standing on that kind of threshold here, but you're going to feel that push-pull with that, and some things are just going to not prove to work out for you. That's okay. Something else will, right? So allow that to happen. But it's a gateway, as you said a few moments ago. So it's a really important threshold crossing. And again, I remind you that that Neptune retrograde has just taken place, and there's still more in terms of qualifying, I think, right through the end of the year and into the beginning of next. So despite the fact that some things are going to be very clear, there still may be a lot of nebulousness yet to sort through as we go forward. So I just wanted to, as I was looking at this Mars transit here, so by the middle of August, Mars will be in trine to Pluto, and it's in the action phase right now until the end of August. At the end of August, is going to shift phases for those who are students of astrology. We're moving from first quarter into gibbous by the end of August. And we don't get to the halfway mark or the full phase of Mars in opposition to Pluto. Doesn't happen until next May of 2023, when both Mars and Pluto will be in different signs. It'll be across the Leo-Aquarius axis. So we've got this whole developmental track right now. From now through the end of August, it's fork in the road, it's decision-making, it's for you to be, as I always say, the general of the army, to be implementing where you can, to put yourself on go in whatever way you can see your way clear to doing so.
I like that. Yeah, taking charge of your joy, taking charge of your growth, gateway for growth, I would say, is what this is, this pairing. I wanted to also give someone this visual, or y'all this visual, but Mars and Pluto are considered to be brothers in more traditional terms, Pluto being the higher octave or the older brother, and Mars being sometimes the more rebellious younger brother. So, Mars does lean on Pluto and lean on you. Your own ego does look to the soul to know what's best for you at this stage. But when they're at odds, as they will be, it can trigger some anger in you if things aren't going in the way that you would like, or even resentment if you've got certain obligations that you feel like it's just weighing on you heavy with that Pluto and Capricorn. There's a responsibility that comes with this, and our main responsibility is our evolution. We've all come here to do something specific, and we all know it on some level. Just on a visceral level, we know that. And if we're not following what that is, then it can create, this running out of time feeling, potentially. That's Pluto and Capricorn squaring that Mars as well. So the adjustments that need to be made so you are feeling on track are really important with this transition coming into July.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you may, there are things to confront, right? So,
right.
That's what's going to be happening over this little period of time. And then as we get into July, on July 4, Mars will move into Taurus. So then that'll slow down the energy a little bit. But, Taurus is about getting a better fix on what it is that has value and meaning, right? So again, it gives you more tangible to work on.
Yeah, and with the way the world has been in terms of resources and gas prices and everything else, oh my gosh, it's been ridiculous. what's going on there at the pump. I was just there, and my eyeballs were like, what? I don't remember when it's been this high, but that's a Taurian thing that we all think about. Everything is, people are looking at just what's important in terms of spending. You know, what is it that I really need right now? And so that's also, I think there's a practical energy that's in place as well, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, when we're just really removing the things that are unnecessary and we're just staying rooted in what does mean the most, then life can feel a lot more complete and a lot better. And, you know, the void is not hanging out there as much because you're focusing on the simple things that fill you up, you know, that really mean the most. So I think that shift could be a really healthy thing and a positive thing.
Yeah, Taurus is the archetype of survival, you know, and as it's moving through, Mars is moving through Taurus, maybe, you know, of course we are looking at the higher prices of everything, but it is about getting clearer about what it is that is going to make you feel more secure and make you feel better centered as you go along. So figuring out what your survival needs are means simplifying. So maybe you don't really need to spend so much. I was just watching barely on the news last night, and they were talking about how much food we waste and how we have to become better shoppers, right? You know, that we're not wasting the food and how much food is actually thrown away, and so maybe want to be smarter about that, right? You know, Mars and Taurus gives the opportunity to, as you said, be more practical and be more focused on these things that are going to generate wealth for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think about Mars and Taurus as it progressively trines that Pluto? Do you think that will help in terms of market terms, or because it will also be squaring Saturn at the same time? I'm wondering.
Well, you know, the raising of the interest rates is to slow down inflation, right? You know,
right.
So will it be productive in doing so? I guess to a certain extent. But I think that we're going to be dealing with recession here. I think it's kind of on the table to be dealt with. So Mars and Taurus is a deliberate slowing down of all of that, right? You know, so I think that so long as long and drawn out is still continuing with the situation in Russia and Ukraine, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we've got another flag here for the break, but we'll be right back to share more about what's coming up in July.
Find out about Kristin Fontana and get your free weekly astrological forecast on her website, KristinFontana.com. Read articles written by the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green. Evolutionary astrology is a spiritual perspective astrology from Pluto's point of view, and what a view it is. You can even order a detailed personalized chart that tells you about your past, present, and future. You'll also discover where and when Kristin's upcoming conferences, workshops, and appearances will be on KristinFontana.com. That's KRISTIN Fontana.com.
Have you ever wondered why you are here on this planet and what the point to all of this is? Evolutionary astrology is a natural science that allows for an understanding of the evolutionary journey of the soul from life to life. Evolutionary astrology provides a vehicle to understand prior life dynamics that have led to the reason and purpose for the life you live. It offers a depth of information and insights about each person that no other type of astrology can provide. As Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of evolutionary astrology, says,
for those who wish to unveil the depth of who you actually are, I would highly recommend that you seek out qualified evolutionary astrologers such as Kristin Fontana and other graduated students of the School of Evolutionary Astrology. For those who are considering becoming an astrologer to make it a natural career, I'd recommend that you consider Jeffrey Wolf Green's School of Evolutionary Astrology, where it will assist you in answering and your clients answering a big question. Why am I here? Thanks for listening, and God bless.
Okay, you're stressed. You need a little R&R. Wouldn't going to a spa help? There's all kinds of spas, too. Destination spas, medical spas, day spas, even dental and mobile spas. Where do you find the right spa at the right price? Oh, no, more stress? Well, not anymore. Visit spafinders.com. At spafinders.com, you'll find everything you need to know about spas from around the world. So de-stress. Click on spafinders.com right on our homepage. Ah, I'm feeling relaxed already.
Whether you're taking a short trip or traveling across the world, Magellans.com is the world's most trusted source for travel, and they guarantee 100% satisfaction. They have everything you need to make travel just a bit more pleasurable. Who doesn't like that? They have travel alarms, clothing, the best luggage, wallets, everything you need except the ticket. Visit the advertiser page on HealthyLife.net and click on Magellans now. You will not only see their travel products, but get a free catalog and read articles with tips on how to make your travel easier. Visit the advertiser page and click on Magellans now.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
All right, we are back. I'm here with Rose Marcus from Vancouver, Canada, and we are discussing the transits for, late June and July of 2022. On July 4th, Mars will enter the sign of Taurus, and the same day, Mercury is going to be changing signs. Mercury will enter Cancer. What are your thoughts about that transition?
Yeah, and also on the 4th, Pallas Athena moves into Gemini. It's just moved from Taurus to Gemini. So it's interesting that there's a couple of dates through the month when a couple of planets are changing at the same time, right?
I just noticed real quick before you jump in, early morning here, while Mercury is still in Gemini, it is sextiling Mars in Aries right before they both change signs. So Mars will be in Aries shifting to Taurus, and Mercury will be in Gemini shifting to Cancer. And they'll both be forming a sextile on that day. I love that combination for gatherings and celebrating.
Yeah, and it's July 4th, so...
Exactly. Yeah. I'd rather Mars be in Taurus for the fireworks versus Mars in Aries, I think. At least a little safer. But anyway. So that was interesting, that shift, right at the same time.
Yeah, so that's a good time to slow down and enjoy and to be with family and, do those good old homey things, the backyard barbecues if you can and so forth, right? Everything.
Yeah.
Make it good for you at home with family and just really enjoying yourself. So, that's that. But so Mercury's on a fast track, and it will move into Leo on the 19th. So it's just about 2 weeks there, moving through the sign of Cancer. And Kristin, as I was preparing for today, I was looking at the Mercury transits, and the whole month ahead, it's Mercury in action. It's just every day. What have I got here? Like 3, 6. I've got about 10 aspects, 10, 11 aspects throughout the month where Mercury is doing something. On the 2nd, Mercury squares Neptune, trines Saturn. On the 4th, it moves into Cancer. On the 8th, it squares Jupiter. On the 12th, it squares Chiron. And the 16th is a superior conjunction of Sun, Mercury, and so forth. And it just is like Mercury. And Mercury is, the coming and going planet. So I think that seeing that there's so much action with Mercury triggering all the planets, throughout the month, that I think that we will see things moving along, perhaps despite the fact that Mars will be in the sign of Cancer, Taurus, which is a slower energy. I think that the conversations are going to keep brisk. The coming and goings are going to keep brisk. Maybe the chaos at the airports is going to continue, but Mercury rules trade and commerce, coming and going, the communications, the connecting the dots, how we link things together, what we're talking about and all of that. So I think it's going to be quite a month ahead for mobilization.
That's a perfect word for that. And I was noticing on July 13th, 14th, 15th, that little time frame, we do have a full moon we'll talk about in a minute on July 13th, but Mercury's forming... it's part of a kite pattern that I'm seeing in the chart, with the highest point of the kite being the North Node, which is your destiny with Uranus. But Mercury will be sextiling Uranus, which is the higher octave of the older brother of Mercury. So things could happen unexpectedly, very quickly, in a positive way, hopefully, a surprise. It is something you would enjoy. And so the moon, the full moon on the 13th is, while it's in Capricorn opposing the sun, it's beautifully aspecting the North Node and Uranus. So I really like that pocket, July 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Well, certainly there's a lot going on. And by the way, that full moon on the 13th is another super moon. So we've got a high tide, right? We've got a batch of different things. Mercury is square Chiron on that day. Of course, the moon will make aspect to Pluto. So it's got an intensity dial up as well too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes back to what I was saying, that there's a lot of intensity, but then there's also these channels for release and a lot of openings energetically for you to make the most of the energy, make the most of your growth. I mean, these aren't like kicking it at the beach kind of energies, right? This is, a super full moon in Capricorn near Pluto. But it is forming some beautiful aspects, like I said, to the North Node, which pulls you into your future, and with Uranus. So something could change really quickly to free you from something you've been dragging forward for lifetimes.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's like you're at the train station, you've got all these bags with you, the train stops, the doors open, and the guy says, you can't take all this with you. You got to leave a few of those here. We don't have the capacity for that extra baggage. And you finally let it go, and you get on the train, and you're off on your merry way. Do I really need to take that with me? And I mean this emotionally, obviously, or psychologically, not necessarily in the way that I'm talking, but that's what is on offer.
And Mercury is behind the Sun, coming to a superior conjunction on the 16th, right? So this takes us from the last time that Mercury conjuncted the Sun, which would have been the retrograde cycle, which was just a couple months ago, right? So again, that idea of dumping the baggage, because the aspect itself is about letting go, dissolving, and so forth. And also on this full moon, Venus is square Neptune. And again, it is picking up that 24, 25 degrees that I talked about with, again, it's a trigger of some kind. So as Venus perfects the square to Neptune, it's in the sign of Gemini. That is an exposing or revealing transit, right? So something that you didn't see, something that you weren't giving attention to, that escaped your full consciousness, makes its presence known. And so there you go. You know, I like that idea of the conductor saying, "Nope, you can't take that baggage on board with you."
But I spent so much time packing it all, and you know.
Yeah, and at the same time, the Venus position is trining that Saturn in Aquarius, right? You know, so again.
So you don't need it.
You
is
don't
what
need
it's saying.
Yeah, you don't need it. You can move on. And with Gemini, it is the domino effect, or it is moving from one thing to another. With Venus Neptune, I think it could be seamless, right? You know, where sometimes we have more jarring information that happens. This might be more fluid in terms of that transition point.
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you another silly analogy, but it's like, you know, there's two options in front of you. Maybe you're seeing two different people if you're interested in two different people, and can't decide between, you know, in terms of dating somebody. And through the square, you find out somebody's true colors, right? And it allows you to make the decision to go with, you know, I'll take door number 2 over here. So. It's Venus is presenting you with options, and then it reveals something about it could be a relationship that you've been spending time in, and then a very clear path in another direction will reveal itself because of that. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to mean intimate things. It could be friendships. It could be people you're working with. It's just seeing something you hadn't seen clearly.
Yeah, the planning or thinking. You know, this is what I'm planning on doing, right? And all of a sudden, the circumstances, say that with that Venus Neptune, is let it reveal itself.
Yeah, exactly. Don't force it. It will reveal itself.
Yeah. And
then you will know what to do. All right, great. I love that. No forcing, just allowing, just being natural. All right, we'll be right back.
Find out about Kristin Fontana and get your free weekly astrological forecast on her website, KristinFontana.com. Read articles written by the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green. Evolutionary astrology is a spiritual perspective astrology from Pluto's point of view, and what a view it is. You can even order a detailed, personalized chart that tells you about your past, present, and future. You'll also discover where and when Kristin's upcoming conferences, workshops, and appearances will be on KristinFontana.com. That's KRISTIN Fontana.com.
If you're like the 8 out of 10 women that say finding jeans that fit is a problem, well, your problem is solved. Lee Jeans has done extensive research, and they have jeans that fit. There's even an online Lee Fit Finder so you can find the right fit for you. Imagine jeans that instantly slim you with a custom fit and no gap waistband. And guys, kids, Lee has jeans for you too. Click through to Lee's Jeans on the HealthyLife.net advertiser page and get what fits.
Take one step towards spirit. Spirit will take 1,000 steps toward you. Come explore the world of evolutionary astrology with Rose Marcus. Rose Marcus is well known for her heartfelt passion, sensitive counseling skills, and dedication to helping others. You can now study evolutionary astrology from the comfort of your own home through live teleconference classes with Rose. To register for the next Evolutionary Astrology School, to read your in-depth monthly horoscope, or to book a private astrology with Rose Marcus, please visit her website, www.rosemarcus.com.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
All right, we've moved to our last segment for the hour, and right before the break, Rose, you were talking about the superior conjunction of the Sun and Mercury in the sign of Cancer. Let's talk about that.
So Mercury is never very far away from the Sun, right? You know, so it cannot form an opposition, right? You know, but what a superior conjunction is that Mercury is on the far side of, you know, it's Earth, Sun, and Mercury, right? You know, so the Sun is in between. The superior conjunction can be thought of as a full moon archetype or a full moon phase, which, and by what I mean by that full phase, is that a superior conjunction is a consciousness raising or illuminating cycle. So the Mercury-Sun conjunction makes you aware, right? You know, where the inferior conjunction, which happens at the time when Mercury is retrograde and conjunct the new moon, that's like the start of the cycle. The superior conjunction is the halfway point, and you know, continuing the integration factor of Mercury to the next time that Mercury is retrograde and conjunct the Sun, which I think is in September. We're having another retrograde cycle, right? So just to note that. So that July 16 is a consciousness-raising time when you kind of go, aha, oh, okay, now I can see it a little bit better than I could before. I'm now becoming more aware of what the parameters are of that. There's still more figuring it out, more sorting it out to do, but again, that happens. And it's in the sign of Cancer. So, you know, the Sun in Cancer, Cancer is all about figuring out what your essential needs are, you know, how, you know, what's nurturing for me, you know, what's going to nourish me here, how, you know, what's going to take care of me best here, right? You know, it's about getting back to that healthy self-care that you do for yourself, you know. Cancer is the archetype of self-preservation, and when we go into these cycles, it's about shifting the way that you are taking care of yourself in that way. How am I going to make myself feel more secure here? What is it that I need? What are my essential needs? And so this is all working that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just after that, days after that, on the 18th, Mercury squares Pluto. And so that, again, is a shift. And then on the 19th, Mercury moves into Leo. So, it's moving along here and spending the rest of the month in Leo. So Mercury in the Leo, again, is a statement of what's best for me. What do I love? What brings me joy? What makes me happy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're moving into that where, the Cancer piece is a bit more safety and security and a little more fearful oriented, or circle the wagons piece of that. Mercury into Leo says, I deserve more here, and I'm going to go get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. That's so Leo. I love it. So the Cancer energy is so key, and I always tell my kids, you attract where you're at. So, you want to make sure that you're solid and sound within yourself, within your soul. You're healthy emotionally, that you're nurturing those needs, so you don't attract somebody who's needy if you're feeling needy, right? So that Cancer energy is so important. It's like one of the hardest lessons for all of us souls on this planet, all of us souls having a human experience, being in the emotional body, when we're not feeling supported, or we're feeling like, we just want to be nurtured by the world and we're not. It's learning how to do that for yourself, learning that in spades. That is absolutely one of the hardest things in evolving, right? Whether it's losing someone you love, or going through a breakup, or not being chosen for something.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest experience because we are thrown back on ourselves in a way that requires us to pull ourselves up by our own inner bootstraps. It's like me, myself, and I. At the end of the day, you're all you've got. You and your gods, and that inner relationship that you have with yourself. So I definitely feel like that superior conjunction can illuminate a lot of that. And it feels so good to know you need nothing to be complete, right? You don't need anything outside yourself. And then you've earned that Mercury moving into Leo that says, what do I want?
Yeah. And I really think, healthy, positive me first.
Yeah, exactly.
Is sometimes a struggle, a war inside, and it's got some shadow work, and it's got all of that. But when you've got healthy, positive me first, then you are
exactly.
You're in a much better place to bring in the right things and to integrate as well too, to help other people to participating with you in the best positive light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we are moving from the middle of the month, from that super full moon, and the days before and after are potent, and then we've got the week following, the 16th, as it says, superior conjunction, and then we've got Venus moving into Cancer on the 17th. We've got the Mercury-Pluto opposition on the 18th, and on the 19th, Chiron stations retrograde, and the Sun opposes Pluto, and Mercury moves into Leo on that day. Three things on that day. On the 19th, Chiron in Aries stations retrograde, Mercury moves into Leo, and we have a Sun-Pluto opposition. Right? That's a lot, it's a lot. So, as I said, with the Mercury thing, every day something with Mercury, I think that we just carry on here. Every day is going to be full to the brim.
Yes. That was the 19th, you said, all those three wild things happening at once?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Middle of July is something, isn't it? All right, so what lastly do we need to cover? Because we've got so much going on the end of July, but Rose and I will be back right before then with the new moon and on the 28th. But what else do we want to...
Yeah, when we get to the end of the month, just to give people a little preview of what comes up. So on the, where is it? It's actually the very end of the month, the 31st. On the 31st of July, Uranus will conjunct, Uranus is transiting the sign of Taurus, and it will be conjunct the new moon going into new phase. And then on August 1st, we have Mars, which is in Taurus, going new phase with Uranus as well, too. And it's on the 2nd, and on the 1st, we have Mars going new phase with the North Node. So there's a bunch up of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node all together there, about 18, 19 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything at 18, 19 degrees of Taurus, this could be a springboard for you, right? Yeah, very dynamic planetary energy. And a North Node, the nodes are sensitive points. So they, what I always say is that they set environmental conditions, right? They set the circumstances up. And you've got that Uranus and Mars going new phase. That's can be a very sudden transit. It's all of a sudden, it's a jolt. It could be very strong. The fact that it's in Taurus is sure to have some kind of reverberation in terms of the markets and finance and money and, all of that kind of stuff. Like right now, I think the Feds are talking about more interest rate hikes coming up. They're trying to accelerate the hikes, right, to slow down the inflation piece, blah, blah, blah. Got those kinds of things. And also Mercury will be in the sign of Leo at 18 degrees, squaring those three items as well, too. So I think that's going to be, and Mercury is will a few days later at the beginning of August there oppose Saturn. So I think that we'll feel that kind of catapulting or breakdown or breakthrough energy right there at the end of the month. It could, Mars Uranus is always a wild card, right? Surprise.
It could go either way as well, wild card either way.
Yeah.
And if you have anything in Earth at that, like Capricorn, 18-degree Capricorn or 18-degree Virgo, I think that could be very positive, right? Because then those points are trining those Capricorn planets.
Yeah, but if you have fixed signs, it could be intense. And I might just say as well, too, that because Leo rules the heart, right, and stress things. So I was watching the news the other day. It's about, the heat and heat exhaustion. Somebody's running a marathon, right, and they were like, don't put your body under undue pressure during that period of time if the heat is turned up high, right? Make sure that you hydrate and stay cool, and don't push your body more than it needs to at that time, right?
Great advice.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, this is definitely another full month per usual, and there's so much going on the end of July, and we'll be able to talk about it again more specifically when we gather at that time.
Yeah, and don't expect more of the same. Keep open to the unexpected, so kind of put that in your thinking and your planning, and create room for it to be a positive experience. If you hang on too tight, when the carpet pull happens, it can be really harsh. But if you are open to the range of possibilities, as my friend always, who does affirmation, says, to the greater good of all, then the good stuff comes your way, right? So it can be replaced. If you're hanging on too tight, you can have a lot of pain, but if you're open to the range of options, then the Uranus transit, the surprise planet transits, can produce something very opportune for you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a great teaching for Pluto transits as well, right? These kind of bigger energies that are happening, the things that you cannot control. It's just letting go of the things you cannot control and doing what you can to change the things you can, and being open for whatever is meant to come in, trusting in the process, trusting that your soul is calling it in for your own personal reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I didn't hear the close, but I think we're wrapping up.
Yes.
Okay. We'll be back in 4 weeks. We'll be back the 28th of July, and thank you so much for being here again with me, Rose, today. It was always a wonderful journey together. Until next time, namaste.